While most women are making vision boards and setting New Year's resolutions, a quiet minority is doing something entirely different. They're treating their lives like military campaigns, and the results are staggering. These women aren't louder, more connected, or luckier than you. They've simply discovered what military generals, Fortune 500 CEOs, and political strategists have known for 25 centuries. Victory isn't won in the moment of action. It's orchestrated years in advance through strategic positioning. Here's what nobody tells you. That ancient text sitting in military academies across the world, Sun Tzu's Art of War, written over 2,500 years ago, wasn't just about battlefield tactics. It was about life dominance, about creating conditions where your success becomes inevitable before you even make your move. And while men have been taught to apply these principles to business, politics, and personal advancement for generations, women have been handed vision boards and told to manifest their dreams. Let me be direct with you. Your vision board is not a strategy. It's a wish list without intelligence gathering. It's hope dressed up as planning. And the reason you've been taught to approach your life this way isn't an accident. It's strategic conditioning. When you're busy visualizing and hoping, you're not positioning. You're not gathering intelligence. You're not making calculated moves that compound into dominance. You're reacting to life instead of designing it. Research shows that approximately 80% of women's goal setting is emotional and aspirational, focused on how they want to feel rather than the tactical positioning required to create those feelings. Meanwhile, strategic thinking, the kind that involves scenario planning, resource allocation, and multi-year positioning, remains coded as masculine or aggressive. You've been taught that being strategic makes you calculating, that planning your life with military precision makes you cold, that thinking 3 moves ahead in your relationships makes you manipulative. But here's what they don't want you to know. The most powerful women throughout history, the ones who shaped dynasties, influenced empires, and built legacies, weren't just lucky or charismatic. They were strategic. They understood what Sun Tzu knew in 500 BCE, that victory is decided before the battle begins, that preparation will always defeat reaction, that the woman who positions herself correctly can achieve her objectives without anyone even realizing she was 10 steps ahead the entire time. This is the concept of Shi, strategic positioning that creates potential energy. Imagine a boulder at the top of a mountain. It hasn't moved yet, but its position gives it massive potential power. That's what strategic life planning does. It positions you so that when you do act, the results are exponential. While other women are pushing boulders uphill through sheer effort, you've spent years positioning yourself at the summit. Only 2% of women apply military-grade strategy to their personal lives. 2% treat their careers, relationships, finances, and personal development as interconnected terrains that require strategic analysis and multi-year positioning. The rest are civilians in a strategic world, wondering why women with less talent, less education, and less effort seem to advance past them effortlessly. The answer is positioning. Sun Tzu never lost a battle because he never entered one he hadn't already won through positioning. He understood that by the time armies met on the battlefield, the outcome had already been determined by months or years of strategic preparation. The women who rise fastest are the ones no one sees coming. They operate with what I call strategic invisibility. They don't broadcast their 5-year plans on social media. They don't announce their moves before they make them. They understand Sun Tzu's teaching that all warfare is based on deception, not lying, but maintaining strategic advantage through discretion. While everyone else is distracted by their public persona, they're quietly positioning across 5 critical life terrains. These terrains, and I reveal all 5 to you, are the battlegrounds where your life dominance is won or lost. Right now, you're probably strong in one or two terrains while completely undefended in others. That's where your life feels out of control. That's where you're vulnerable to other people's agendas. That's where you're reacting instead of commanding. Stop planning like a civilian when you could be strategizing like a general. Your relationship goals, your desire for financial freedom, your vision of becoming the woman who walks into a room and changes the energy, these aren't just valid objectives, they're strategic campaigns that require intelligence, positioning, and execution. The woman who wants a partnership with a high-value man isn't shallow. She's strategic about building a life structure that supports her other objectives. The woman who prioritizes her advancement isn't selfish. She's understanding that personal power creates options that benefit everyone in her sphere. This isn't about becoming masculine or aggressive. Strategic thinking isn't gendered. It's been deliberately kept from you because women who think strategically are women who can't be controlled. Women who plan 5 years ahead don't accept whatever circumstances they're handed. They design circumstances. They create situations where their objectives become inevitable. But before I reveal this 5-year framework, you need to understand why everything you've been taught about goal setting has been deliberately designed to keep you small. Let me show you exactly how the self-help industry has been keeping you trapped in a cycle of planning that feels productive but produces nothing. Every January, you sit down with your journal or your planner and you write out your goals. Maybe you create categories: health, career, relationships, finances. You feel that rush of possibility, that sense that this year will finally be different. You might even break those goals down into smaller steps. You're doing everything the Instagram coaches and productivity gurus tell you to do. And then February arrives. Then March. Then suddenly it's December again, and you're looking at a year that somehow slipped through your fingers while you were busy being busy. You've probably experienced this. That sinking feeling when you realize you worked harder this year than ever before, yet somehow you're not measurably closer to the life you want. You're exhausted from the effort, but you can't point to strategic gains. Your less qualified colleague got the promotion. Your friend who seems less focused is somehow thriving in her relationship. Women with fewer credentials are commanding the respect you're still trying to earn. And that voice in your head whispers, "What am I doing wrong?" Here's what you're doing wrong. You're not failing because you lack discipline. You're failing because you're using a civilian approach in a strategic world. You've been handed emotional goal-setting tools and told they're the same as strategic planning. They're not even close. Look at how corporations plan. When a Fortune 500 company creates a strategic plan, they're working with 3 to 5-year timelines. They're doing scenario modeling, wargaming multiple possible futures. They're allocating resources based on strategic priorities. They're analyzing terrain, market conditions, competitor positioning, resource availability. They're asking, where do we need to be positioned in 3 years to make our 5-year objective possible? What capabilities do we need to develop now that won't pay off until year 4? They're treating business like Sun Tzu treated warfare, as a strategic campaign where today's positioning determines tomorrow's options. Now look at what you've been taught to do. Set goals based on how you want to feel. Create affirmations. Visualize your ideal life. Maybe make a vision board. Perhaps break your aspirations into actionable steps that aren't actually connected to strategic positioning. There's no scenario planning, no terrain analysis, no resource allocation, no multi-year timeline with positioned milestones. It's aspirational theater masquerading as planning. Sun Tzu said, "Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat." That's what your goal setting has been, tactical noise. You're taking action, but it's not strategically coordinated action. You're working on your resume while someone else is positioning themselves to be headhunted. You're trying to be more confident, while another woman is strategically cultivating the specific skills that create legitimate confidence.
You're hoping to meet the right partner, while women with strategic clarity are positioning themselves in environments where high-quality men are concentrated. Every year without a strategic plan is a year your positioning weakens relative to those who do plan. You're not standing still, you're falling behind. Because while you're reacting to whatever life presents, other women are designing their circumstances. They're not smarter than you. They're not working harder than you. They're working strategically while you're working tactically. Here's what nobody tells you about why this keeps happening. Women are culturally conditioned to be adaptive and flexible. Sounds positive, right? But adaptive is code for reactive. Flexible is code for lacking strategic boundaries. From childhood, you were taught to go with the flow, while boys were taught chess. You were praised for being accommodating, while they were rewarded for strategic thinking. You were told that planning too rigidly was controlling, that having clear boundaries was selfish, that prioritizing your objectives over others' needs was unfeminine. The result, you enter relationships from weak strategic positions because you never assessed the terrain before moving. You say yes to opportunities that don't serve your 5-year positioning because you haven't defined your 5-year positioning. You wake up at 35 realizing your 30s have been spent correcting the strategic failures of your 20s. And that's exactly where most women find themselves. Not because they're incapable, but because they were never taught to think strategically about their own lives. The motherhood penalty isn't just about workplace bias. It's about entering that transition without strategic pre-positioning. Women who maintain power through motherhood are women who spent years before that transition building financial runways, cultivating networks, developing portable skills, and negotiating from strategic strength. Women who lose ground are women who didn't know they were supposed to be positioning. Think about the cost of this, not just this year, but accumulated over decades. The career pivot you didn't make because you didn't position for it 3 years earlier. The relationship you entered because you were reacting to loneliness rather than choosing from strategic strength. The financial freedom you don't have because you've been working tactically on income instead of strategically on asset positioning. The skills you never developed because you didn't understand they were force multipliers across all life domains. The woman who gets promoted over you didn't work harder, she positioned better. She understood something you weren't taught. She knew that by the time the promotion is announced, the decision has already been made through months or years of strategic positioning. She was playing a different game entirely, while you were trying to win at the wrong game. Sun Tzu taught, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Most women don't even know what battle they're in. They don't assess the terrain before moving. They don't understand their own strategic position. They're flying blind, wondering why effort doesn't translate to results. This is the exhaustion paradox. You're working harder than ever before while falling further behind. Because effort without strategy is just sophisticated busy work. It feels productive. It looks productive to everyone watching, but it's not moving you towards strategic dominance. It's keeping you trapped in reaction mode while strategically positioned women advance past you with what looks like effortless ease. You tell yourself every year that this year will be different. But without changing your approach from civilian goal setting to military-grade strategic planning, how could it be? Hope is not a strategy. Effort is not positioning. Busy work is not advancement. This isn't an accident. There's a historical reason women were never taught what I'm about to share with you, and understanding that reason is the first step to breaking free. Sun Tzu lived 2,500 years ago in a world that would seem unrecognizable to us, except for one thing. The same principles that made him history's greatest strategist are the exact principles that separate powerful women from everyone else today. In 544 BCE, during China's tumultuous spring and autumn period, a military general named Sun Tzu, authored a text that would become the most influential strategic treatise in human history. The Art of War wasn't just another military manual. It was a philosophical framework for achieving objectives through superior positioning rather than superior force. And here's what makes Sun Tzu's legacy undeniable. He never lost a battle. Not one. Not because he had larger armies or better weapons, but because he understood something that transcends warfare entirely, that victory is created through strategic positioning long before any direct confrontation occurs. His 13-chapter masterpiece has been studied by Napoleon, applied by Mao Zedong, and remains required reading at military academies worldwide, including West Point, Sandhurst, and the U.S. Naval War College. Fortune 500 CEOs study it. Political strategists build campaigns around it. Elite negotiators use its principles in boardrooms. Why? Because Sun Tzu wasn't really writing about war. He was writing about power, how to acquire it, maintain it, and deploy it with maximum efficiency and minimum resistance. Listen to his core teaching. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Victory through positioning, not combat. Dominance through strategic superiority, not direct confrontation. Achieving your objectives before anyone realizes you were maneuvering toward them. Does this sound familiar? It should, because this is precisely how feminine power has always operated. For centuries, powerful women have been accused of manipulation for using the exact strategic thinking that makes men brilliant leaders. Catherine the Great didn't seize the Russian throne through military might. She positioned herself strategically for years, building alliances, understanding terrain, and creating conditions where her ascension became inevitable. Wu Jiten became the only woman to rule China in her own right, not through force, but through decades of strategic positioning that made her indispensable. Eleanor of Aquitaine shaped European politics across 3 generations through strategic marriages, alliances, and invisible influence that kings couldn't counter because they never saw it coming. These women weren't manipulative. They were strategic. They understood what Sun Tzu taught, that the general who arrives at the battlefield first and waits for the enemy has already won. Strategic positioning means you're creating situations where victory is inevitable before you even act. You're not fighting for power. You've already positioned yourself so that power flows to you naturally. This is why Sun Tzu's framework is perfectly suited to feminine power. Women operate in systems that weren't designed for their advancement. You're navigating corporate structures built by men for men. You're entering relationship dynamics shaped by thousands of years of patriarchal conditioning. You're playing on terrain that favors direct confrontation, the very thing women are culturally punished for. So what do? You adopt Sun Tzu's philosophy. You don't win through direct combat. You win through superior positioning. Sun Tzu identified 5 fundamental factors that determine victory. The way, which is alignment with purpose. Heaven, which is timing. Earth, which is terrain. Command, which is leadership. And discipline, which is systems and organization. Notice what's missing from this list. Brute force, aggression, direct confrontation. Sun Tzu's entire philosophy revolves around creating conditions where your objectives become inevitable through positioning rather than fighting. This is the concept of Shi, potential energy created through strategic positioning. Imagine that boulder at the mountaintop again. It hasn't moved, but its position gives it tremendous potential power. A woman with 2 years of financial runway has Shi. A woman who has cultivated specific skills before the market demands them has Shi. A woman who enters a relationship from strategic strength rather than emotional scarcity has Shi. You're creating power that exists before action, power that makes your eventual moves exponentially more effective. Sun Tzu taught that all warfare is based on deception. Now, before your conditioning makes you recoil from that word, understand what he meant. Not lying, not manipulating. strategic advantage through information asymmetry. The woman who doesn't broadcast her 5-year plan isn't being dishonest. She's maintaining strategic advantage. The woman who appears flexible while operating from clear boundaries isn't deceiving anyone. She's exercising strategic discretion. This is wisdom, not dishonesty. Your nice girl conditioning has taught you that strategic thinking is calculating, that planning your moves makes you cold, that thinking 3 steps ahead is manipulative. But that same behavior in men is called visionary leadership, strategic planning, executive thinking. The double standard isn't accidental. It's strategic conditioning designed to keep you reactive. Here's what they didn't want you to know. The relationship intelligence you already possess, reading emotions, understanding unspoken dynamics, anticipating needs, is strategic intelligence. You've been doing terrain analysis in your relationships your entire life. You just haven't been taught to apply that same strategic thinking to your career, your finances, your personal development, your life design. You haven't been taught to think like Sun Tzu. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. The art of war isn't about violence. It's about designing systems where your objectives become inevitable. It's about understanding terrain so thoroughly that you position yourself in places where success is the natural outcome. It's about timing your moves so precisely that they appear effortless. It's about building such overwhelming strategic advantage that you never need direct confrontation because you've already won. This knowledge was literally kept from women throughout history because women who think strategically are women who can't be controlled. Women who plan 5 years ahead don't accept circumstances, they create them. Women who understand positioning don't compete for scraps, they position themselves where resources flow naturally. Now that you understand why Sun Tzu's framework is perfectly suited for feminine power, let me reveal the 5 terrain strategic system that will become your blueprint.
Here's what the top 2% of strategically dominant women know that everyone else is missing. Life isn't one battlefield. It's 5 interconnected terrains, and your positioning on each determines your overall strategic advantage. Sun Tzu devoted entire chapters of The Art of War to terrain analysis. He understood that ground is the foundation of strategy, that before you can plan movements, before you can allocate resources, you must understand the landscape you're operating on. He identified terrains that offer advantage and terrains that trap you. Accessible ground versus deadly ground. Open terrain versus enclosed terrain. And here's what's critical. Your success isn't determined by effort on these terrains. It's determined by your positioning on them. Most women scatter effort across all 5 terrains randomly, reacting to whatever demands attention loudest. Strategic women do something entirely different. They assess all 5 terrains, identify which one is decisive for their objectives, and concentrate overwhelming force there first. Because victory in one terrain creates cascading advantages in others. Let me show you exactly how this works. The first terrain is your professional terrain. This is your career positioning, your industry relevance, your skill portfolio, and your professional network. Here's what reactive women do. They respond to job postings, update their resumes when desperate, and wonder why less qualified people get opportunities. Here's what strategic women do. They map 5-year industry trajectories and position themselves ahead of market demand. Strategic professional positioning means acquiring capabilities 2 years before you need them. If you want to pivot into a leadership role in 3 years, you start building those competencies now, not when the position opens. If your industry is trending toward specific technical skills, you're developing them 18 months before they become requirements. You're not job hopping reactively. You're making calculated positioning moves where each role builds strategic advantage
for the next. In year 1 of your 5-year plan, you're identifying your decisive professional positioning. What role do you need to hold in year 5? What skills, credentials, and network does that require? Work backward. In year 3, where must you be positioned to make year 5 possible? In year 1, what foundations make year 3 achievable? This is trajectory mapping. By the time that opportunity appears, you've been positioning for it for years. Your second terrain is financial terrain. This is where most women confuse tactical income optimization with strategic wealth positioning. You're focused on your salary. That's tactical. Strategic financial positioning is about asset acquisition, debt elimination, and building what I call financial runway. A woman with 2 years of living expenses saved has infinitely more strategic options than a woman living paycheck to paycheck, regardless of their income levels. Financial independence isn't about becoming wealthy. It's about strategic freedom. It's the ability to make non-compromised decisions, to leave relationships that don't serve you, to reject job offers that would derail your positioning, to invest in skill development, to take strategic risks. Your 5-year financial positioning protocol starts with this question. What financial position would give you complete strategic freedom? Then, work backward through debt elimination timelines, asset acquisition targets, and passive income system development. In year 1, you're building your exit fund, that financial cushion that transforms you from reactive to strategic. In year 2, you're eliminating high-interest debt that limits your options. In year 3, you're beginning asset positioning. In year 5, you have financial runway that allows you to operate from strength in every other terrain. Your professional positioning determines your financial options, which determines your relational negotiating power. See how these terrains interconnect? The third terrain is your relational terrain. This includes romantic partnerships, but it extends far beyond that. Your social capital, your network, your community positioning, and your relationship leverage. Here's where women have been taught the most damaging reactive patterns. You're told that relationships are about luck, chemistry, and timing. That's civilian thinking. Strategic women understand that relationships are about positioning. Strategic partner assessment means evaluating aligned objectives, complementary positioning, and shared timelines before emotional investment. You're not hoping to meet someone, you're positioning yourself in environments where high-quality partners are concentrated. You're not entering relationships from emotional scarcity, you're choosing from strategic strength because your other terrains are positioned. The woman who has professional momentum, financial runway, and personal development doesn't need a relationship to complete her. She chooses partnerships that amplify her strategic position. This extends to your broader social capital. Your network is a strategic asset. Are you cultivating relationships with people who expand your access, your knowledge, your opportunities? Or are you maintaining connections out of obligation? Strategic relationship cultivation in year 1 through 5 means deliberately building a network that serves your objectives while you serve theirs. This isn't using people, it's strategic alliance building. Your fourth terrain is personal development. This is your invisible arsenal, the skills, knowledge, capabilities, and psychological positioning that others don't see coming. While everyone focuses on your visible credentials, you're developing competencies that will become force multipliers across every other terrain. Strategic personal development means identifying which capabilities amplify your effectiveness everywhere else. Financial literacy isn't just about money. It's strategic intelligence that informs professional decisions and relationship negotiations. Communication mastery isn't soft skills. It's tactical superiority in every human interaction. Negotiation capability isn't for salespeople. It's for every woman who wants to operate from strategic strength. Emotional regulation isn't therapy. It's maintaining strategic clarity when others are reactive. Your health and energy aren't vanity projects. They're strategic resources. The woman with consistent energy can outposition the woman who burns out regardless of talent. Your psychological positioning, your capacity for strategic thinking, your emotional resilience, your ability to delay gratification for positioning gains determines your execution capacity across all terrains. In your 5-year plan, personal development is your force multiplier. In year 1, you're identifying which 3 capabilities would most amplify your other terrains. In years 2 through 4, you're systematically developing them. In year 5, you're operating with an arsenal of competencies that create overwhelming advantage. The 5th terrain is your lifestyle terrain. This is environmental design, where you live, who you surround yourself daily, how your time is structured, and what 5-year objective or hoping for opportunities. Financial terrain. Do you have strategic runway, or are you trapped in paycheck-to-paycheck reactivity? Relational terrain. Are you choosing from strength or hoping to be chosen? Personal development terrain. Are you building your invisible arsenal or stagnant? Lifestyle terrain. Does your environment compound advantage or drain it? This assessment isn't about judgment, it's about accurate terrain analysis. Sun Tzu taught that if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. You must see your actual positioning clearly before you can plan strategic movements. Where you are weak, you're vulnerable to others' agendas. Where you're strong, you have options and leverage. Imagine your positioning in 5 years if you start implementing this framework now. Imagine walking into any room with the quiet confidence of a woman who has spent 5 years strategically positioning across every terrain. Professional competence that's undeniable. Financial freedom that allows non-compromised decisions. Relationships chosen from strength. An invisible arsenal of capabilities. A lifestyle designed to compound your advantages. That's not fantasy. That's strategic positioning over time. Now you have the complete strategic framework. But understanding terrain isn't enough. You need to know how to execute with the precision of a military campaign. Let me show you exactly how to activate this starting tomorrow.
Strategic planning without execution is philosophy. Execution without strategy is chaos. Here's exactly how you bridge that gap starting in the next 7 days. Sun Tzu taught that the general who wins the battle makes many calculations in their temple before the battle is fought. Your first move isn't action, it's accurate assessment of where you actually are, not where you wish you were. This week, you're conducting your strategic audit across all 5 terrains. Set aside 3 hours, not scattered across days, 3 uninterrupted hours where you honestly assess your current positioning. For each terrain, answer these questions with brutal honesty. Professional terrain. What's your actual market value right now? What skills do you possess versus what your 5-year objective requires? What's your industry trajectory without intervention? Financial terrain. Exactly how many months could you survive without income? What's your debt-to-asset ratio? What passive income exists? Relational terrain. Are you choosing relationships from strength or scarcity? What's the quality of your network? Who in your circle expands your strategic options? Personal development terrain. What capabilities have you developed in the last 12 months? Where are you stagnant? What's your energy level and psychological resilience? Lifestyle terrain. Does your environment support your objectives or drain them? How is your time actually allocated versus how you claim it's allocated? Write this down. Seeing your positioning on paper removes the comfortable ambiguity that keeps you trapped in reactive patterns. This is your terrain intelligence. Now assess the gap between current positioning and where you need to be in 5 years. That gap isn't a judgment, it's strategic information. It tells you where to concentrate force. Next, inventory your resources. Time. How many hours weekly can you realistically dedicate to strategic positioning without burning out? Money. What financial resources can be redirected towards skill acquisition, debt elimination, or investment? Skills. What do you already possess that can be leveraged? Network. Who do you know who has already achieved what you're targeting? Energy. What's your actual capacity, not your aspirational capacity? Then identify your constraints. What currently limits your strategic options? Is it financial, trapped in paycheck-to-paycheck survival mode? Is it skill-based, lacking capabilities required for advancement? Is it environmental, surrounded by people who pull you toward reactivity? Is it psychological, trapped in people-pleasing patterns that prevent boundary setting? Understanding your constraints is critical because your first strategic moves must address whatever is limiting your positioning most severely. Within your first 30 days, you're defining your strategic objectives. This isn't aspirational vision boarding, it's specific positioning targets. For each terrain, articulate exactly where you need to be positioned in 5 years. Then, work backward. What year 3 position makes year 5 possible? What year 1 position makes year 3 achievable? This is reverse engineering your strategy. Now here's the most critical decision you'll make. Identify your decisive terrain. Which single terrain, if you gained strategic advantage there, would cascade benefits to all others? For most women, it's either financial terrain or personal development terrain. If you're trapped in financial scarcity, every other terrain is compromised. You can't invest in skills. You enter relationships from need. You can't take strategic career risks. Your financial positioning is decisive. Alternatively, if you lack specific capabilities that amplify everything else, personal development might be decisive. One woman's decisive terrain might be professional. Until she establishes positioning there, nothing else moves. You cannot transform all 5 terrains simultaneously. That's scattered effort that produces no strategic gains. Concentrate overwhelming force on your decisive terrain for the first 90 days. Choose 3 strategic moves maximum, not 30 goals, 3 positioned moves that address your decisive terrain. If it's financial, maybe it's creating an automated savings system, eliminating your highest interest debt, and developing one income diversification stream. If it's professional, maybe it's acquiring 1 strategic skill, building 3 key relationships, and positioning for 1 visibility opportunity. 3 moves: daily and weekly tactical implementation. This week, you're auditing. This month, you're defining objectives and identifying your decisive terrain. This quarter, you're executing your first 3 strategic moves with concentrated force. By day 90, you won't look dramatically different to outside observers, but your positioning will have fundamentally shifted. Here's what you need to understand about strategic patience. Visible results lag strategic positioning by 12 to 18 months. This is the underground growth phase. You're building root systems that no one sees. You're developing capabilities that haven't manifested as outcomes yet. You're making positioning moves that look like preparation. Other people won't understand what you're doing. They'll see you turning down opportunities that don't serve your strategy and think you're being unrealistic. They'll see you investing time in skill development instead of immediate income and think you're impractical. Resist reactive pivots when results aren't immediate. Strategic planning tolerates tactical imperfection. You don't need flawless execution. You need directionally correct positioning sustained over time. The woman who positions strategically in year 1 creates options in year 3 that reactive women can't even imagine. But year 1 looks boring. It looks like groundwork. That's exactly what it should look like. Let me address the obstacles you're about to encounter. First, guilt.
You've been conditioned to prioritize everyone else's needs above your strategic positioning. You'll feel selfish protecting 3 hours for your audit. You'll feel guilty saying no to requests that don't serve your decisive terrain. Reframe this. Strategic self-leadership isn't selfish, it's responsible. You cannot serve from strategic weakness. The woman who positions herself powerfully has infinitely more capacity to contribute than the woman trapped in reactive survival. Second, perfectionism paralysis. You'll want complete clarity before starting. You'll want the perfect plan. Strategic planning isn't about perfection. It's about directionally correct positioning that you refined as you gather more intelligence. Start with 80% clarity and adjust as you execute. Sun Tzu said, "Speed is the essence of war. Once you have sufficient intelligence, execute decisively." Third, boundary setting. Protecting your strategic positioning time from others' demands will be your greatest challenge. Your family will want your time. Your friends will want your attention. Your workplace will want your extra effort on non-strategic projects. You must learn to say, "That doesn't serve my current priorities." Not rudely, but firmly. Your strategic positioning time is non-negotiable. Finally, the support system question. Do you share your 5-year strategic plan or maintain strategic discretion? Remember Sun Tzu, all warfare is based on deception, not lying, but information asymmetry. The most powerful women operate with strategic invisibility. Share your tactics if helpful, but protect your strategy. Let people see your moves after you've made them, not before. Strategic dominance in 5 years begins with strategic clarity in the next 7 days. If you can't identify your decisive terrain, you'll scatter force and advance nowhere. This week, audit. This month, define objectives and identify decisive terrain. This quarter, execute your first 3 strategic moves with concentrated force. That's your protocol. You now have the complete strategic framework and implementation protocol. But before you begin, there's one final element that separates women who transform their lives from those who simply understand the concept.
You've just received strategic intelligence that most women will never encounter. What you do in the next 48 hours will determine whether you're still having this same conversation with yourself in 5 years, or whether you're living from strategic dominance. The choice is binary: strategic architect or reactive participant. Choose now. Sun Tzu's wisdom has survived 2,500 years because it transcends time, culture, and circumstance. The principles that positioned generals for victory are the same principles that will position you for dominance across every terrain of your life. You're now part of the 2% who think strategically. You understand what most women never will, that the woman who plans for 5 years dominates the woman who plans for 5 months. But understanding isn't enough. Sun Tzu taught that opportunities multiply as they are seized. Every day without strategic positioning is strategic ground lost to women who are already implementing. While you hesitate, someone else is conducting their terrain audit. While you wait for perfect clarity, someone else is identifying their decisive terrain and concentrating force. Your positioning in 5 years is being determined by the strategic decisions you make this week. Most women won't do this. They'll watch this content, feel inspired, and return to civilian planning. They'll continue scattering effort, reacting to life, hoping for different results. Prove you're not most women. Begin your strategic audit this week. Join the lineage of powerful women throughout history who understood the strategic positioning creates the power that changes everything. Subscribe for continued strategic intelligence. This is your foundation. There's far more terrain to master. You're not on this journey alone. You're joining a community of strategic women who refuse to accept reactive living. Welcome to the 2%.